Let's start our webinar because Anna is a very busy businesswoman and she has back-to-back meetings also. So let me just say a few words about what the meeting is about, what Kenjo is about, who Anna Brandt is, and then we're going to start the meeting in a flash. So thank you guys for all joining and taking your time to join us, and also thank you, Anna, for being our guest speaker. My name is Anya. You see me under the name of Ruben Medina, who's the head of marketing here at Kenjo, but I'm using his account, so my name is Anya. Just if you have any questions, let me know. I'm the senior content manager at Kenjo, a German company, HR company with offices in Madrid and Berlin, as you all know. We are a cloud-based all-in-one HR software that has helped hundreds of organizations to implement attendance for remote teams and creating a more social and intuitive environment. We've been organizing webinars for some time now, like on a monthly basis, and our community is really engaged and growing on like our different channels. For example, we have 30,000 monthly readers on our blog. On our YouTube channel, we are regularly interviewing HR related people, and also like the big heavyweights of the industry, like Julian Taiki, the CEO of WeFox. And if you don't yet, just follow us on our social media channels to get the latest developments on HR related subjects. Let me just say a few words about Anna. Anna Brandt has been in recruitment for over 13 years, half of this time in global leadership roles, like working for Uber, Zalando, N26, Mollie, and also for her own company. And she has helped like a lot of organizations to successfully scale their businesses. And that's why we're super excited about sharing her pearls of wisdom about how organizations successfully grow digitally by providing strategic and tactical advice of remote recruitment and sourcing operations. And Anna, if you could just click to put, I found the statistics, because you might ask yourself, why bother hiring remotely? Because of COVID, a lot of companies have stopped hiring altogether. But I found this extensive overview by Kenjo, who looked at over 1,700 businesses with 60% reporting hiring freezes. But many actually are just temporarily waiting to see how things shake out. It's also clear in this, I hope you guys can see it, that the software development companies and consulting services are strongly affected, but they seem to be in the best spot when it comes to the hiring layoffs ratio. So it's safe to say that companies that already have or can switch to remote work with minimal effort have a clear advantage. And that's where Kenjo comes in. It's an HR tool to recruit and onboard remotely, which is basically necessary these days to do this remotely. So it's GDPR compliant. Employees can clock in and clock out without cards, and so it's also touchless, which is important in times of Corona. There's meeting features. You can stay in touch with your team. And if you'd like to try it out, you can, we offer a free 14-day trial to work with all our features. In this meeting, it will last for an hour. You can ask all questions here into the chat. I will collect them, and there will be a last 10-15 minutes where I will ask the collected questions to Anna, and she will answer them to us. And then also we record this webinar, and in the next few days we will send you a follow-up email with the link and an updated form of this presentation. So no worries if you log in later or you have to leave earlier. There will be like a collection of the entire webinar. So this is it for me now. I hand over to Anna and let's start. Thanks.
Thank you so much for the introduction. A really good one, actually. I just want to make sure, Anja, do you see the full presentation or do you also see the notes section?
I see the full presentation, but I just see that it's been shared quite in a small way. Like, I don't know, unfortunately, like for me, it's fine. I can see it. And I mean, your presentation, I don't see any notes. The screen sharing is a bit small.
Yeah.
If you can make it bigger, that would be lovely. Not sure if it's only me. Well, if you can start, I'll just try and figure out the technical stuff. You don't need to.
Do you see it bigger now? Like, let me try. Do you guys see it? Is it better?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you. Yeah.
And what do you see now? Just to be checked the technical stuff.
I see the entire screen, and on the top I see you in a little screen. So it's a lot better now. It's full.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. So good afternoon. Very happy to be here. Anja Rubin asked me, I think a few weeks ago, if I could share some of my learnings on how to successfully hire and onboard remotely. I think a topic that many of us in the call are dealing with today and will be in the future. I think a recent study shows that more than 70% of the companies believe that even after COVID-19, the way that we used to organize work will change. And there are even companies in the Valley that state that their employees never have to return to work and could always continue to work remotely. So that's a big change for how we organize ourselves, and it also calls for an urgency to understand how we actually successfully then select those people to our organization and make them part of our culture. So I'm happy to share some learnings. I actually love, I think it's not the right format to also hear a little bit more about your learnings, what worked for you for the last few months, what were your struggles. So if it doesn't happen now, happy for you to reach out to me later. I always love to share best practices. So you might wonder who I am. I think, Anja, you already gave a great introduction. As you can hear, I'm Anna Brandt, I'm Dutch. I unfortunately still have my Dutch accent. I live in Amsterdam at the moment. I lived all over the world. I'm a mother of Olivia. I've been in recruitment indeed over 13 years. I've had a tremendous ride. I've worked for a lot of amazing tech organizations. I've seen a lot of different stages of organizations. And since 3 years, I have my own company. And I've worked with various organizations on how to strategize their recruitment. Next year is going to be an exciting year for me. I will start a company with Noor van Boven, which is one of the board members of Kenjo, and we will focus on partnering with founders and investors and VCs to help them accelerate the growth of their organizations. So that's enough about me. Let's go back to the topic. So, you know, I think over the last few months, I think a lot of us have experienced that basically everything in businesses can be done remotely. And for a lot of us, everything is done better in person. And I heard someone say this, and it really, you know, really resonated with me. I've been truly impressed with the organizations I work with currently at Mollie, a fintech organization that's really aggressively growing. Everyone has done an amazing amount of work. Even they suddenly had to sit back at home in a total different way of organizing their day, sometimes with children. And they still had a lot of impact. At the same time, I think, not for everyone, but a lot of people have struggled with the less human part of the work that we have done. And I have worked quite a bit with the recruitment team at Mollie on how can you humanizing the recruitment process and the onboarding process so it's still personal and people are engaged. So I think the key is for all of us try to humanize the process that you have. Yeah, I think in everything you design, let's go back to make it as personable and human as possible. That has been always our guiding principle and has been one of the fundamentals in how we have organized our work over the last few months. So let me start by, you always start by optimizing the recruitment process. I think, there has been a lot of research done on candidate experience. And the most important factor is that candidates need to feel that you have spent enough time with them to listen to their experiences. So they could have shared their knowledge, their experiences. And secondly, they want to understand the recruitment process and have very clear expectations how that will evolve. And the third biggest factor of when a candidate has an amazing experience or less so is when a candidate receives constructive and timely feedback. And I think all of us here, HR, recruiters, leaders, will recognize this, either from a recruitment perspective, either from being a candidate yourself. And so the first step is to optimize your recruitment process in a way that it makes a candidate feel heard and understood. Secondly, by optimizing a recruitment process where with the organization, but also with your candidates, so you can manage clear expectations and select the best people of the job. And thirdly, to map out what are the best touch points in the process to come back to a candidate in a way that's not different than you normally would do face-to-face. But you can see, but I think some of those steps need to be more frequent or not. And I will share some light on this. So the first step is really understanding what your organization is trying to achieve. Yeah, and and how the role that you recruit for will contribute to that strategy. And I think it's even more important to understand that now than ever before. A lot of candidates that I've interacted with are actually more conscious to join another organization. So for them to understand which journey you're on as an organization becomes a really important part of the story. I think secondly, there is a lot of good tooling out there that help you to make it a more human process. Yeah, so we're in Zoom. Video calling has at least given us a really good tool to still assess candidates and have a more human piece to this. I think one element that we have seen that definitely needed additional focus is the amount of times you interact with a candidate. Yeah, as you have not spent a lot of time at the beginning with a candidate face to face at the coffee machine, people do tend to have a harder time to connect with you, yeah, and feel a bit more distant from you. So in our setup, we have tried to have more frequent touch points with the recruiter, yeah, quicker follow-ups, and especially on the channel that candidates prefer. So even that's on app or on email or by phone. Just to start, optimize the recruitment process that it's actually focused on remote hiring, get the right tooling in place. And part of this is the preparation. I think even more important is to be prepared for the interview and help your hiring managers to feel equipped. Yeah, I think many of us know how this normally goes. Your hiring manager runs around, still grabs the CV and sort of sits down and then start happily looking at the CV and then start talking. Well, you sort of can wing it if you still have to kind of grab a coffee or sit down. It's way harder in video, and we all know. Yeah. So we have really helped our hiring managers to actually set up for success. So we prep them by email, general prepping. What do we expect from you? Make sure you're prepared. You have seen the CV, you look into the camera. Second, make sure the room is set up for success. And you don't have the laundry hanging in your back. I've seen this minimal times, or a cat in your neck. Although it can be endearing, I think if you're more from a coming from a professional side, it might be less successful. And also help them to actually structure the video call. Yeah. So help them to understand that, especially at the beginning, you need to find common ground to make it more humble and that humble and more human and personal. So, you know, try in the first 10 minutes, we help them to understand, try to understand that in the first 10 minutes, to talk about non-related, work-related topics. Yeah. So we help them to find common ground or something interesting somewhere in the discussions that we've had with the candidates or on the internet to talk about. Yeah? So find the cat video you both like and talk about it. Make people feel comfortable. Yeah. While it's so natural when it's face to face, we have, you know, you've probably experienced that in a video call, it's actually hard to do some small talk. Yeah. And for some people, harder than for others. So we as a recruitment team help the hiring managers also to set up for that success. Yeah, so help them prepare. I think another big element is what we have seen changing from being face to face, where people come into your organization, see the offices, see how people interact. That's much less so in a remote setup. Yeah. So you only see the people that you intend to interact with. And that's most of the time one-to-one. And therefore you miss a lot of other information about the organization, about the culture, about the surroundings, about the way you organize. So a good learning for us is to try to embed that in the process. Yeah. So we have, you know, send out a candidate pack that gives information about you as an organization. And partly this could be videos about your office. It could be videos about others. It could be webinars you have been given. It could also be links to all of your social media that you have out there. Because the more the candidates will understand and feel about your organization, the more they will be likely to be engaged, to join your organization, but also the likelihood of them to be actively opting in the role or the organization. Because ideally, you also want people to opt out, and it's still the case. Yeah, if they're not the right fit, then you would actively hope they would say, hey, maybe this is not for me. And that's harder if you don't give them enough information to judge on. Another thing we have been doing, especially more on the senior roles, and I've seen some questions coming in on how have you organized C-level recruitment, we've actively asked people to say, who would you like to, so we have structured the interview, we explained to them how it would look like, and then we give them the option, who else would you like to talk to? Yeah. And every time tuned into what are the questions you still have in order to tailor the recruitment process so they will get that information. Another element is that, of course, we also would like to introduce or help candidates to understand how we do our work together. Yeah. Where that's much more easy when you can do that in the office and where you can show them around. We have actually used, we call it deep dives, where we actually ask them and share with them information about the actual job and on all different levels, so up to even C-level. Give them background information about Mollie, about the teams, how we're structured, what we try to achieve, and then give them more information about the task at hand. Yeah? A lot of times it's confidential information that we trust and give to candidates. And then ask them for a deep dive discussion on how would you organize when you would start working here? You know, how would you organize the first 6 months? And then, you know, the next or the 12 months. And this will allow for more in-depth discussion around work. Yeah, and will also allow to see and judge, hey, is this style that this candidate has or the organization has a match for who I am and what I would like to achieve? And we have done it on various levels and also with bigger people in one call, which is not always easy, which really asks a lot for a recruiter or HR manager to manage it, but we have seen this success. I think at Mollie, where I'm currently at, we have, hired already 60 people in the last few months, where we all were remotely based. And we're an organization of 200 people, so that's a lot. Yeah. And we've since then onboarded, I think, around 70 people, or almost 80, all virtually. So it's definitely possible. I think another element to this success is that you really spend time on the candidates and make them understand what makes them rock and that makes them tick, in order to jump in and mold a process that is actually tailored around the candidate. For maybe more roles where there's high volume, this might be harder to achieve, but especially for the more specific roles, you need to spend quite some time on this to really understand the importance of the candidate and the interest of the candidate in order to actually manage the process. Yeah, I think we have at Mollie been very good in debriefing candidates towards a candidate. So actually, every time after an interview, connect with the recruiter, with the candidate, to understand, hey, what did you enjoy? What didn't you enjoy? How did it go if we weren't involved ourselves? And what kind of questions do you still have? And then also then follow up with the next interviewer on those elements. Hey, for her, culture is really important. Make sure you shine light on our culture and what we think is important. Or she has X, Y, Z of questions. Make sure you spend time on this. It will also make hiring managers way more comfortable in these setups. And then go the extra mile for the right person. Yeah, I think also this we know from non-remote hiring. But make sure that you have, when you know what makes a candidate tick, go the extra mile. Stay actively in touch. Maybe send some branded merchandise. We do that at Mollie to their home address to already feel very included. Send them a card, a postcard, an extra email. Make sure that maybe people in the teams reach out to a candidate. And we actually have got a lot of feedback on this specific element in the recruitment process, where we used to do less so, right? We were running around organizing interviews, and now we're doing way more deliberate contact points with candidates, and it actually has paid off quite well so far with Mollie, and people really enjoyed it and enjoyed the effort. And it is scalable. You don't have to all do this yourself as a recruiter. Make sure you activate the teams, the hiring teams, to do this. Yeah, it's not all about us reaching out. Also on the offer stage, we have seen this actually works out quite well remotely, but then also use a video call. Really come prepared. Really make it as personal as possible. And then make the hiring manager follow up to get them extra involved. So say now you've hired this person, and I think by now, a lot of you, I've seen a lot of your names, as no one else, that a great onboarding program is amongst the most influential factors of revenue growth of your organization. Think about how the onboarding can be as personalized as possible for your candidates. I think key for our learning is engage straight away. The moment people sign the contract with us, we reach out to the teams to actively reach out to their new team member on LinkedIn or on email or even on text and on phone. And I've received a lot of these messages that people were overwhelmed, just signing the contract, being very excited. And then they received 10 to 15 messages on LinkedIn with people in their team saying, wow, I'm so excited that you joined. We can't wait to meet. And maybe we can already do some calls before. Because it makes people feel very welcome right from the start. And then, think about the pre-boarding, we have tried to set up people right at advance with different people in the teams to connect already, to have some more informal chats before they would officially join. And next to that, we have also more formal pre-boarding where we have where we include a personal message from the founder towards our candidates to welcome them to the organization, but also to shine some light on what do we think is important in our cultures? What are the values that we really think highly of and think are important at Mollie? So really connect on that part too. And then we will make sure that HR personally gives you a call to organize the pre-boarding, the contract, the program, so they also understand who joins Mollie. And even though we have ramped up recruitment, we kept on doing this personal touch by personally calling a candidate, know what makes this candidate rock. And it has made a big difference. A lot of people again have mentioned, wow, I've never felt so welcome, never so engaged, even though it's remotely. So you see, those little things don't cost money. It costs us a bit of planning ahead and organize ourselves. Yeah, and giving time and effort to those candidates or employees actually. At Mollie, we also, like many of us, we suddenly experienced a situation where we all had to stay at home. At Mollie, we came into the office 5 days a week. We weren't actually very set up to work from home. People also enjoyed going to the office. And basically, we're all sitting at home, and 2 weeks later, we had to onboard 30 people. Yeah, so in 2 weeks' time, we ramped up a virtual onboarding process and basically changed all the onboarding presentations and buddying sessions to be virtual. And also make sure we recorded it for the people that kind of wanted to look back. I think with organizing this virtual program, we looked at the moments that mattered most to a candidate. And I think some of you will know this by mapping a candidate journey. Not all moments for a candidate or for an employee are equal. Some moments are especially happy or cause us anxiety, where we can play in and make them feel great. Yeah, and we have seen that the pre-boarding has been one of those moments that really matter to a candidate. Yeah, and that personal welcome message from the founder and that call from HR, so not only from recruitment, to welcome them has made a big difference. Yeah, we've also seen that people got quite a lot of stress around or questions. I don't know if it's stress, but definitely a lot of questions around equipment. Yeah, how do I set myself up at home? When do I receive my laptop? When can I connect? And in that call, we also talk about what do you need to feel comfortable at home? Is there anything we can do for you? And when would you like to receive your laptop? We have employed, we initially did it ourselves, and the IT department would drive around to deliver those laptops. In the end, that's not necessarily scalable. So we have now a service that actually helps people to feel completely comfortable and receiving the equipment that they need to work safely and comfortable from home. It's truly important and says something about us as a culture. I think the other moments that matter that we got a lot of feedback on is that we, right from your start, actually already in the pre-boarding phase, you get assigned a buddy. And I think some of us know that it's part of a successful onboarding program. But to help for the buddy to connect with the new employee, we have actually set up daily check-ins, right? Where you have a tendency where you can ask all the different questions, yeah? And also talk about non-related work activities. Because also that we have tried to embed in the onboarding. So we have a virtual lunch together, we have virtual drinks, and we have even had our Mollie band perform virtually, yeah, just to connect with each other. but still, I think a lot of us have learned over the last months that a lot of the learning is happening in front of the coffee machine. All the knowledge about connections, the way of decision making, the connections between people, the informal learning part where you just ask something because you're waiting for a coffee, or you just introduce yourself to someone, is actually providing us a lot of information and makes us feel comfortable in the role. I think we cannot change that. I think that will stay for partly. We have seen that even though we have launched this virtual onboarding program, the onboarding does go slower than when you're all in an office and you hear a lot of questions being asked already when you're just at your desk. Yeah. And it's okay to just acknowledge that. Yeah, I think that's an important part too. It is not easy to onboard remotely. You might feel sometimes lost and alone. Make use of that buddy, and also make use of reaching out to your manager or to HR when you feel this way. We recognize it. We have been there too. Yeah, being there on the first day, working remotely, figuring out how it all would work. So make sure you send some love to the new people in the teams, and actually to everyone, and be kind, and ask them frequently on what they need to be successful. If you're very mindful of that people might not be comfortable, it already helps to open up the conversation. And it actually helped a lot also for our team. My recruitment team personally grew from 2 people to now 8 remotely. So I've also been there. It's intense. And then also for my team, that it has been intense. So recognize it, acknowledge it, and help them to feel great. Yeah, send them that bottle of wine, yeah, on that Friday evening. Mollie has done a great job in that. Every week we received a package, and it could be very small, to say, stay tuned, you know, continue your great work. We're here we're in it together. And also I found that little things can happen, you can mean a lot. And then of course, listen to your employees. Yeah, we have, I think, done over 6 or 7 virtual onboarding programs since we're all at home, and we've improved them ever since. Yeah, I think we got a lot of response, a positive response on our first virtual onboarding program. Mainly, I think, because people were also very thankful that we've switched to remote quite quickly, and over time we definitely increased. We have, for example, found we used to have an onboarding program that would last 2 weeks to a month, where we would actually say, hey, on a daily basis, on your first day, you have a complete full day of presentations to find your way, and then we'll spread it out for you to land in the organization. We've got actually quite a lot of feedback from employees saying, well, we actually want to condense it to 3 to 4 days, and we get it all in once, because otherwise we feel even more lost. Yeah, it will help us to set us up for success. It's super intense. Can you imagine 8 hours behind your laptop? But it helps us to be more successful. We've also embedded games. Yeah, games around knowledge around Mollie. We have embedded videos. We have embedded side chats for people to connect. We have embedded lunches, just to make sure there's a different way. It's all not the same content and format, yeah, to spice it up. Nevertheless, I think it's intense. 4 days onboarding is general intense, especially if it's virtual. But we've, you know, got quite good feedback on that. The last time we've actually condensed it, people enjoyed it more. So really listen to your employees and ask for feedback. And then measure your success. I think it's quite early days for a lot of us to measure the success. I think what we have seen in terms of measurement is that it actually takes people longer to onboard. So it's definitely something we need to look in a bit more closely on. How do we make sure, and if somebody knows this in this call, please reach out to me. How, if you have any good experience on how to create, especially the informal learning, so that moment at the coffee machine, That's especially the element that I have not cracked yet, on making sure that people hear the questions that have been asked somewhere else at different homes, at different calls. So I'm definitely interested to hear more. So we've seen from a measurement perspective, it takes people longer to be onboarded and feel comfortable. On the other hand, we've actually seen that the time to hire has shortened quite significantly. Yeah, so sometimes video calling is also, or remotely hiring can also be faster in a way. I think ultimately, I would be very interested to measure the success of the people that joined in this particular moment of time, and how they would do in 6 months' time and how they would do in 12 months' time. And it's definitely something we will track, and I would invite you to track too. I would love to share some experiences on that too. So yeah, so that were definitely some of my learnings. I have way more, but I know I can talk quite lengthy. So I'll leave it right there, and I'm opening it up for questions.
Thanks, Anna. That was really interesting. I really liked the buddy system approach you have at Mollie's. I think it's really important when you're new to actually have a big brother who helps you to find your way, especially when you can't really connect and walk around. So that's really interesting. So guys, if you have any questions, please type them in here. You're on mute, so we can't hear you. Just type them in to the webinar chat. Also, there's already a bunch of questions. For example, Anna, what's the easiest and most difficult role that you've ever hired remotely?
That would be definitely more the VP level roles. I thought that's quite challenging for the special reason is that they will have a lot of different touch points, and it's not so easy to condense what the job should be containing and to really connect on a management team level with a candidate. Yeah. So we have tried to orchestrate that by individual conversations and then a video Zoom call. It's still different than, you know, talking about the business also at a kind of dinner setting and coffee setting. Because I think if you're in board VP and on board level positions, that's super crucial. Yeah, because you're a leadership team, and so you need to connect not only on parts of your job but on a broader level. We have done it. But it's definitely challenging, and it costs a lot of organization that we talked about. Touch points, understanding this, we assess and actually assess, but also explore enough if this would be a good match, also from a candidate perspective. Because you want to avoid that we think this is a great match, but actually the candidate has not have made a totally informed decision. So that's a challenge. I think the challenge that we currently still have is that we have great, especially technical talents that are in locations that are currently in lockdown. And at the moment at Mollie, we cannot employ them because we can only employ European contracts. Yeah. So we could either hire them as a contractor, which we have done actually a few times. And then they start as a contractor, and then they, as soon as some of the borders open up, one of them was Brazil, this person did arrive, we can employ them. But it's also, I think, find that quite challenging.
No, it's that's true. I mean, it's crazy times we live in, and it's though a trend that will stay. I believe, and the statistics gives us right. Like once everything goes back to normal, hopefully sooner rather than later, I think still people will hire work on board remotely. Yeah, it's definitely a very hot topic. Also, there's a question about what are your best 3 questions to ask a new hire when finishing his or her onboarding?
Oh, the best 3. I'm always getting a bit nervous with that best 3. I think it depends on what you would measure. So you have, I mean, there's partly the MPS measure, right, which is more point system measurement, which gives you good insight how you're trending, what the trend is in your feedback on your onboarding sessions. That gives a nice trend line. I think for me, the most valuable feedback is still the open questions. Yeah. And then especially on what did you, for me, it's, you know, what did you enjoy from the program? And enjoy can also be, what's the most what's the best presentation, or what did you learn from most? What were you missing? I think what were you missing in onboarding, really important for us to be better. What else would I ask? We have a great survey, to be fair. Yeah, and maybe I would always ask for what could we do better? What would you advise for us to do better? I think, you know, I think HR and recruitment are experts in certain ways, but I think employees or candidates always know better, right? If you're a candidate, you also know how you feel and what you need. So I would definitely ask and take that advice. And what we've also done is actually the new people make them buddies to new remote hires, right? So you also, they can acknowledge that feeling. So I've done that in my team. And then you actually also say, they also understand better what the newbies need, basically. I don't know if there are the best 3 questions to ask, but I think they are quite informative. We'll definitely do MPS, trend setting, and then those 3. Yeah.
I imagine a lot of people, especially in the first few weeks of training on the job and trying to find out how things are done in the new company, are quite nervous to like speak up their mind in the beginning, like to really say, oh, this thing in the onboarding or so, I think it could have done better. How do you engage people like freely in performance, like not only performance management, but also in terms of like critiquing a little bit maybe onboarding processes?
Yeah, I think I've not experienced that at Mollie, and that has all to do with the culture, right? And it goes back to how you manage everything towards a candidate and then an employee. So I think if you ask continuously about feedback in the recruitment process after every interview, and you take that serious, yeah, and you also take that to the next conversation, people also trust that you do something with the feedback and that it's okay to give either positive or also maybe less positive feedback. Yeah. So I think in the whole recruitment process, you show the culture of your organization. Yeah. And for us at Mollie, that's definitely very open, and we can critique even, you know, the top of the organization, and they will take it on board. Mm-hmm. They don't always change it, but they will listen. I think there's a big openness to listen. I think is a really big element. I think it also has to do with maybe they might not say this in the survey on that second day, but it even gives more mandate to a recruitment partner to also stay in touch with the people you've hired, right? Because they have already a connection. So it's good to actually follow up. I think a lot of our recruiters are following up after the first week and then the second week on how are you doing? Do you need anything else? It's not only HR, it's recruitment and HR. We're one, right? To see, and we're colleagues. It's basically going out to a colleague saying, what else do you need and how did you find it? And also those moments of feedback, we feedback to the person running the onboarding team. So even if it doesn't happen at the time, we still encourage for feedback. Mm-hmm. Yes, on a more personal level.
Mm. Yeah, I think feedback is the way to go. It's really important to be in constant communication with the employees. There's another question. How can one best onboard a top management level hire while remotely?
Yeah, so we have different onboarding programs for indeed top management and say other employees. So be careful how I phrase that. I think part things are the same. Yeah, I think even for top management, that first day of onboarding or the first 2 days, they should be part of that. And it depends on your part of the organization, but we're a very flat organization. And of course, it's now also their organization, so they should be part of that general onboarding and understand, and also actually provide feedback how it could be better. Yeah, I think a lot of times they're in a lens of being also a newbie, but also being a leader. And then we have organized a program called Grow at Mollie, which is, focused way more on leadership skills and leadership trainings, and also information that's relevant for leaders in the organization. So I think sometimes the need of a leader to be equipped to manage a team or part of the organization is different than individual contributor, and we have recognized that. So we have actually diverted the onboarding programs at one stage. So the beginning is the same, and later on it provides different information to make sure that everyone is equipped well. Yeah.
For sure. And the same question, the same person also was interested if you had any suggestions on what content belongs in the pre-boarding versus the first week versus the first quarter. You already said a little bit about it, but maybe you can do like precise points. Yeah.
So also, if you have this question, ask your new joiners, what would they have liked to see before they joined? And what would they like to wait when they start? I asked it also everyone in my team. So I think the pre-boarding, what we're doing is definitely the contact with the team. Yeah, because that makes you feel part of an organization. And definitely, and team is also including the manager. We all know that the connection with your manager is crucial. If you enjoy your role, if you feel recognized and valued. So we do that in advance. Yeah, and we actively stimulate to reach out. We also actively already let the new joiner participate in the informal catch-ups that we're having. So we actually organize quite some virtual drinks, what I told about the band, we have bingo nights, all of that. We invite them already to make sure this is also part of our culture and it's really important, and you can already connect. You don't have to, but you definitely invite it. And then there's more formal information. That's the whole contractual piece, I guess you understand, but also more around the values piece, where the founder sends out this video and tells a lot about our mission and what we're trying to do and how important it is to recognize the culture and the impact an individual can make within Mollie. I think that are the main things that we do on the pre-boarding side, and then connect some of the new joiners together. And then on the boarding side, you go more in depth on the organizational structure as well, right? So yes, you will hear way more about the strategy from Mollie that is also hosted by our CEO. We definitely give every department a chance to really shine some light on the strategy and objectives and what they're trying to achieve and how we all work together. And there are also learning platforms and topics that come later. So that's how we have differentiated it. It will be interesting to hear any other thoughts or later from you, how you have organized it and what you have seen worked well. This is so this is what we have done right now.
And would you do these same things also with hires on a management level, on a C level, or?
For sure.
Yeah.
Even more so. Yeah, you want to make sure that the team reaches out to their new boss. Yeah. Yeah, we do that for sure. And I think people at Mollie like that as well. And also a lot of the times new leaders like that. So in that sense, that's the same. Yes. And of course, they're also welcome on bingo night. They're our colleagues. Yes. Yeah, so for sure.
Yeah, I think it's really important, like to find a common basis. So in old school way of working together, a lot of times it's very hierarchical, where you don't really connect to the bosses or managers. And I think it's really important to find a common basis. So these things, I think it's good to not structure things differently between different sources of management. Also, there's another question. Do you also support the visa process as well? Or do you think that this should definitely be part of the onboarding process in terms of relocation support?
I'm sure if I can say, I think this should be. I think for us, I think makes most sense that visa. I don't know really the context of the question, and that's a bit hard and where this is coming from. But yeah, for us that's part of the onboarding. Sure, it's hard to onboard without a visa process. Maybe the question is related. I'm guessing here, guys, if it's a recruiter's job or a HR job. For us, I think it's most of the time operations, and that actually looks after that. So HR operations, with the true fact is these people in their teams are very much committed to follow the right process, have also the knowledge, and recruiters tend to be, I would like recruiters to be more external focused on those candidates, bringing in new candidates and less on the admin part. But it depends a lot on how you set up the organization and the size of the organization. Yeah. So Mollie last year had initially one recruiter, and then for a year 2 recruiters that hired 75 people, and that also actually drafted the contracts. That were good times. Yeah, drafted the contracts and did everything. That's why it was set up. So it depends of course on the scale of your organization. If you get bigger, you tend to organize maybe more in teams and the skill sets. Yeah.
Let's see. So Melanie, you just answered yes, recruiter or HR. I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, so I think she meant, Melanie, I think you meant that it indeed was the context question, who should do it? Was it HR or recruitment? I think it makes sense that it's part of operations, but it depends on who looks after the operational part. Yeah, it could also be a recruiter, depends on how you're organized. Yeah.
All right, I hope, let's say she answered yes. So I hope, Melanie, that answered your question. We do have a few more questions, but I think they already have been answered, like how to organize work shadowing without a physical presence during remotely hiring, how to assess culture fit to the team with online interviews.
Yeah, I think I could add on the cultural piece. I think, but that's a general comment. Cultural fit, I possibly personally don't enjoy the word fit. I think cultural add is if you want to go to a more inclusive organization, the right word to use, because you don't want to fit the rest of the team, then you tend to get more similar minded people. Well, we know by now that diverse teams outperform non-diverse teams, and it has direct impact on the revenue of an organization. In order to assess for culture, my advice would be the values that you have drafted. And if they're not drafted, the values that you have within an organization, boil them down to the behaviors that come with those values. Yeah, because the behaviors you can assess in a recruitment team. So I give you an example. So if one of your values is respect, one of the behaviors that can come with that is we listen to one another. Yeah, or we're actively open or actively seek feedback. Yeah, those behaviors you can assess in the recruitment process, and I would strongly advise you to do that. And actually, I'm myself surprised that you actually still see this also remotely. If you pay attention, so when a candidate sends you an email, and I had it today actually, very short, quite strong tones, I'm already warned. Yeah, I think, there's no need. What's happening? So you know that, hey, in the next conversation, I will dive a little bit more about the style and approach, and drive more on the behaviors that we think connect to that value, and then you can assess better. So values are hard to assess, behaviors are. So definitely, if you have not done that yet, generally, I think we have done that already in the recruitment process before we did it remotely. I would definitely invite you to do that, because otherwise it becomes even harder to do that remotely. Yeah.
I was just writing down, I really like this. It's like a quote, values are hard to access, but behavior is, no, sorry, the other way around.
No, yeah, it's hard to assess on values.
Yeah.
You can assess on behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really well said. So guys, if you have no more questions, and we're already reaching the end towards our webinar, and Anna needs to go to another meeting actually later today, I have to say thank you so much for joining, and also thank you, Anna, for taking your time to really, have an insight into hiring and onboarding remotely. In the next few days, we will send you a follow-up email with a recorded version of this webinar, as well as collected Q&A to all the answers Anna gave us on the most burning subjects. And there you will also find a PDF form of the presentation, and also a link to an article where we put the most important answers together. There you can also join our free 14 days trial to implement time tracking into your business. And also we will be doing another webinar in September, like mid-September, which we will be promoting like with a lot of time in September, because a lot of people are attending the webinars on a regular basis. We look forward to hearing your feedback. If you have any, contact Anna or myself directly. The contact details are in the PDF as well. And yeah, thank you for taking your time, Anna. It's lovely.
Of course, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Have a lovely day. Ciao.